सोमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरतुषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second Canto, chapter number 10, verse number 6. Sri Sukadeva Goswami is continuing to explain the questions which were asked by Parikshit, and for that he has related to the history of Brahma, how he received Bhagavatam, and then he referred to the meeting between Sri Narada and Brahma, where Narada had asked him questions and he is replying them now, because they said that whatever Parikshit has asked, then the same questions were asked by Narada to Brahma. So now he is explaining the 10 topics of Bhagavatam, and out of that he has explained the first 7, and in this verse the Nirodha and Mukti, these two are explained. So it says Nirodhasya anushainam atmana sah saktibhi muktirhitva rupam swarupena vyavasthitihi. Nirodha means the dissolution, because everything in the material world goes through a cycle. You see that there is day and night, and creation and destruction in our own life. We take birth, we die. So similarly this whole universe also is created and then it is destroyed. So what is destruction? Because he has defined what is creation. So destruction is defined as when Lord wants to take rest, which means that he stops taking interest in the universe and he contracts all his energies. So that is called sleeping. It's like when we sleep, so it is not that we are dead, but we stop working, and with all our energies, whether they are mental faculties or physical energy, we contain them within ourselves, and we lie down and we are dreaming or whatever. So Lord also, when he stops looking at this universe, then that is called dissolution. So universe is created by his glance, because when he glances at the material nature in its unmanifest form, then material nature starts action, and this big thing comes into manifestation. And when he closes his eyes towards the material universe, then material universe collapses back, everything becomes unmanifest. So that is the meaning of dissolution. Therefore it says Nirodho Asya Anushayanam, and Anushayanam means that the living entities, they also sleep. Now we are taking birth, dying, but in the period of dissolution there is no birth for the living entities. They all sleep along with the Lord, and whatever the actions we have performed now during creation and which have not fructified in our existence during the creative cycle, then those actions or karmas, they remain in the form of vasana along with the soul. And when the next creation will be done, then we get birth again according to these vasanas or unfinished karmas, the karmas which have not given their results. And this is how the creation goes on, one after another. And mukti says muktir hitva anitha rupam swarupena varastati. Mukti means to become situated in our own swarupa, which means to realize our relationship with God, with Krishna. At present, we are in forgetfulness of God, and we are only engrossed in our body and things which are related with body. So liberation or nirvana or mukti or moksha means when we understand our relationship with God and we realize it, then we become free from identification with the physical body. So although we are always situated in our swarupa, now also we are situated in our swarupa, in our own self, but although we are situated in our own self, we are looking towards the body and we are in forgetfulness of our own identity, the true identity as a soul. But we identify with the body. So in that sense, it is as if we are not situated in our own self. It's like if you are sitting here and then you start thinking of something else and become absorbed in it. So you may be sitting here, but you are not participating here, you are not listening, and you become oblivious of your surroundings. And then somebody may ask, where are you? Where are you gone? So same thing is actually happening to us all the time, that we are lost in the sense that we are only looking externally to other things and not looking to our own self at all. So that is the cause of our bondage and suffering. All our suffering are coming because of this unawareness or forgetfulness of our real identity. And our real identity is in relationship with God, because we don't have any identity independent of God. So therefore, liberation means also realizing our relationship with God. Now that is another thing that we may think of, nirvishesh form or nirvishesh feature of God and become Brahman realized, or savishesh means the form, God with form and God without form. So therefore there are two types of liberation. So in both cases the soul becomes situated in its own at that time. And then we become free from the physical body, gross as well as subtle. And if we develop a relationship with person, personality of God, then we get a spiritual body. Otherwise we remain as soul. So that is called liberation. So that will be also defined later on. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Atmano jivasya harer yog nidram anupashyat shakti swaupadibhi sahashanam nirodhaiti. Says when the jiva sleeps after Lord goes into yoga nidra. So Lord sleeps, but his sleep is not like our sleep, therefore his sleep is called yoga nidra, or it is a trance. Because when we sleep we forget our physical body. But Lord is not in forgetfulness. Basically it means that he forgets all this external creation. He is not paying attention to it. But he sleeps with all his shaktis. So that is called nirodha or dissolution or destruction. Iti sthiti anantaram mahapralaya jivanam parameshware laya ukta. So this is called laya. The living beings, they become merged into the body of God, Mahavishnu. And that situation is called Mahapralaya. Anyatha rupam mayikam sthul suksham rup dvayam hitva swarupena siddha jiva swarupena keshamchit bhagavad parshad rupena cha vyavasthir mukti. And liberation is when we give up these two bodies, subtle as well as gross, which are products of Maya, and we remain as pure soul. Or we get a spiritual body and become associate of Lord, Bhagavad Parshad Swarupam. So both are called liberation. Iti sargadayo jiva vishya navartha ukta. So these are the 9 topics which are related with the living beings. Because this whole creation is for the soul. Because Lord has nothing to gain or lose from this. So therefore he says that Sargadayo, all the creation and secondary creation and the divisions of time, these are all related with jivas, the living beings. They have been described. Then he says, Abhasascha nirodhascha yatascha adhyavasiyate sa ashraya param brahma paramatma iti shabdate. So then the 10th topic is the ashraya or shelter. This universe is not without shelter. It is not independent. It is also sheltered in God. So that shelter is defined now. That abhasascha nirodhascha yatascha adhyavasiyate. That from which the creation happens and also in which the dissolution happens. That is the ashra. So just like if you make any material objects, then you take objects from the earth. So they are created from earth. Earth is the shelter of all the objects which you see. Everything has come from earth. And when it is destroyed, it merges back into earth. So earth is the support of this. So similarly, this universe is not just independent. It has its support in the Lord, in God. If one can go out of the universe, then one will see that it is actually existing in the body of God. And when it is destroyed, then it goes back in Him. So it comes from him, it goes into him. Just as all these objects have come from earth, and they will one day be again part of earth. So therefore he says that what is Ashraya, the shelter of everything, says that from which all this creation, and creation signifies Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Uteya, Manvantara, Shankata, all this. And Nirodha means dissolution, which also signifies Mukti. They are all sheltered in him, and that is called Param Brahma, or the absolute truth, absolute reality. He is also called Paramatma, means the super soul. He is also called Bhagavan, the supreme person. So as it is said earlier, Brahmati, Paramatmati, Bhagavanati, Shabdati, so that Param Brahma, Paramatma, these are stated here. And as Vedanta Sutra says, Janmadashayata, that it is from him that the universe comes, and the universe is situated in him and it goes back in him. And Bhagavatam also begins Janmadashayata Anuvayaditaratasya. And earlier in Chatusloki Bhagavatam also it was mentioned that Etavadeva Jigyasam Tattva Jigyasuna Atmane Anvaya Vatirekabhyam Yat Syat Sarvatra Sarvata. That only that has to be inquired which exists by positive and negative statements in everything all time. So it is God only because on His existence the universe exists, and without Him it cannot exist. So He is the one which is to be known, which is to be inquired. And therefore He is the Ashraya, or the shelter of everything. And it is to explain Him that Bhagavatam is written. People want to know what is God. This is the book which explains God, because God is not just some entity, but He is a person and He has energies, power, potencies, and He manifests this power. Like when you have power to create something, if you are a musician, then you create some music. If you are a painter, you make some painting. So whatever abilities, powers you have, you do creation with that. And God is very powerful. So therefore He creates such a big universe. And not only this, many universes He creates. Because He has got so much power in Him. So to know who is God and what type of energies He has, where does He live, how does He look like, how we can reach Him, this is the book for that. That's why it is called Bhagavatam, means the book of God, book about God, book spoken by God. That is the meaning of the word Bhagavatam. So for this reason he says that all this creation etc. they are explained or described so that we can understand who is the supreme shelter of everything. For that reason only the description is being given. So now he is going to define that. He has already given at least 2 words for him. He is called Brahman because he is the greatest. He is called Paramatma because he is the super soul, or Paramatma also means he is the object of love. He is the supreme object of love. We may love many things in this world, in our day-to-day life, but actually whatever we love it because there is some part of God in it. Indirectly we are loving God without knowing. Whether we love some person, some music, some creation, nature, that attraction which we have, it is because that object has got some characteristic of God, and that only attracts us. So that is the meaning of Paramatma, which is the object of love. सर्गादीनां नवानां लक्षणैरेव तद्विषयी भूतान् सर्वान् जीवान् लक्षयित्वा एकस्य आश्रयस्य लक्षणेन परमेश्वरं लक्ष्यति. So, after defining the 9 items, beginning with creation, sarga, etc., then with these he has also defined the jivas, sarvan jivan, the living beings, and then he is now defining the ashraya. And by giving the definition of ashraya, he is explaining Paramatma, the Supreme Person, Parameshwar. Abhasa sargaha. Abhasa means creation. Chakarat sthiti poshanadaya nirodhaschayati cha sabdat muktischayata adhyasiyate nishriyate. So the word Abhasa means creation, and it also indicates the other things like Sthiti, Poshan, Uti, Manvantar, Ishanu Katha, all these. And Nirodha, which means destruction, it also indicates Mukti because the word Cha is used with it. So, these things from whom they are understood or they are ascertained, that shelter is Supreme Lord, Ashraya Bhagavan Narayana. Another name of Lord is Narayana, because Nara means human beings and we come from him, so he is Nara, and then he is also inside us, so therefore he is called Narayana. So Narayana means who is within everybody. This is another name for God. Tasmadeva Srishtiyadi Darshanat. So it is from him that the creation etc. happened. Tasyev upasak bhedena sangyantara mahaparamita. And God has got various names because there are various types of people who approach him. So according to the worshippers or the devotees, the practitioners, God takes various names and various forms. So some believe that God has no form. That is also God, because they want it like that. And some believe that God has form and he also has a form. So God is not just limited to one. He has got a lot of variety in him. So that's why he refers Brahman and Paramatma. Now he continues explaining what is this ashraya. And once the ashraya is understood, then from ashraya how the creation occurs, then he will explain that. So rest of this Bhagavatam will talk about these topics. Of course, they have already been referred to. And the real thing is ashraya. So if you remember in the first chapter, there were 6 questions asked. And mainly these questions were about Krishna, who is the Supreme God. And then the answers were given in 3 chapters. And after that again, there was a dialogue between Vyasa and Narada. And he told him about his past life, Narada, and how he met or realized Krishna. And then how Bhagavatam was written. And then the story of the Pandavas, Parikshit's birth, etc. So all this is about Krishna. Then second Canto, when it began in the very first chapter, Sukadeva Goswami starts answering Parikshit's question. And the sense of his question is that Tasmat Sarvatmana Bharat says that therefore by everyone Srotavya, Kirtitavya, Smartavyascha, Ikshitavya. that Hari Sarveshwarishwara, that Hari or Krishna, who is the Sarveshwara, Supreme Controller, he should be heard about, meditated upon, and described if one wants to become free from fear. Because his question was how to become free from fear and what is the duty of a person who is dying. So then the whole talk is about Krishna, and that is the thread in this book. The biggest canto is the 10th, which has 90 chapters out of 335, and they're all about Krishna. And then 11th canto, having 33 chapters, they are mainly spoken by Krishna. Then 12th canto, having 13 chapters, most of them are related to Krishna, how he left, etc. So the book is about Krishna, means the book is talking about God. And everything else is explained to make us understand that God has various types of energies. So for that reason, he begins explaining this more. What is this ashraya? Says yo adhyatmikoyam purusha soso eva adhidevikaha yastatra vicheda purusho hi adhi bhautikaha. Says that the same God and his energy, it manifests in different ways, and he makes three divisions: Adhyatmik, Adhidevik and Adhibhautik. So Adhyatmik refers to the senses. We have body, and most important thing in body are the senses, because it is through the senses only that we relate to the external world. If our senses are blocked, there is nothing we can do. But these senses are not working by themselves. They have their presiding deities. So he says that it is God who is the controller of the senses and the controller of the presiding deity of the senses, and that which makes the difference between these two, that is body, is Adhibhautik. So try to understand this concept, because there is only one reality, and how that one reality exists as a variety, that is being explained here. There is actually unity in this whole creation, and that's why it is called universe. It is not called trioverse, quarterverse or duoverse, but uni. Uni means one, not multiverse. So in this universe, there is only one unity which is manifest in this variety, one reality. How that one reality exists, that is being described here. Therefore he says that yo adhyatmiko ayam purusha so asau adhidevika. He says that person who is adhyatmika, that very person is also adhidevika. And yes tatra ubhaya vicheda purusho hi adhibhautika. And that which makes the difference between adhidevika and adhyatmika, that is adhibhautika, is also the same person. So this is the most interesting thing and difficult thing to understand, how there is variety and yet there is unity. There is diversity and there is unity. And this world exists on unity and diversity simultaneously. We know that our physical body, it starts with one cell. Originally there is a womb from the mother and this thing from the father, and these two things combine, and then it grows, then it splits into two, then two splits into four. So there is always division, but then division is not sufficient, they are also combining again, and then they make parts. So the cells are dividing and combining, dividing and combining, dividing and combining, and then making parts, and then they combine in such a way that one part is different from the other. It is the same cell, the source is only one cell, and that one cell manifests into ears, into nose, into eyes, into the brain, hand, leg, nails, hair. Everything is made from the same stuff, and all this has come into existence by union and division, union and division, union and division. So the source is only one, and yet there is variety. So similarly, God is the source of this universe, and there is so much variety, but there is a division and there is also union. So everything has one energy flowing into it. There is only one energy. So as he quotes this verse in Bhagavad Gita, Atha Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekansena sthito jagat. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I am pervading this whole universe by one of my energy. Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekansena. This complete universe, God has entered into only one of his energy. And yet there is variety. Because if we study Sankhya philosophy, then originally there is only Prakriti. And Prakriti is glanced by the Lord. And when Lord glances at Prakriti, then it starts manifesting. It makes cosmic intelligence, makes the ego, makes mind, makes the subtle elements, the senses, cognitive senses working. All this comes from the same source. So he says, Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekansena sthito jagat. That I am situated here, or this world is situated by one of my potency, because I have entered into it. Pratideham eva antaryami rupena sthitam tadeva ashraya rupam adhyatmadibhyo vibhagena spashtam darshetu mahadvabhyam. So there is only one Lord, and He is situated in every one of us. In every body God is existing. But He is performing different functions by being situated. And He is explaining that, because without God's presence, the body will not work. And God is also manifest in this universe, and if He is not present in this universe, then universe will also not work. It will not work. And later on it will explain that how this universe, which is like an egg, in the beginning it did not function. Only when Lord entered into it, then it became activated. So it is by His presence that everything functions. Therefore it says that Prati Deham eva antaryami rupena sthitam. In every body, Lord is existing as an antaryami or super soul. Tadeva ashraya rupam, and He is the ashraya, He is the shelter. Adhyatmadibhyo vibhagena spashtam darshitam ahadvana. But He has divisions, as Adhyatma, Adhideva. यो आध्यात्मिको अयम इति सर्वत्र विनयादित्वात् स्वार्थ ठक यो अयम आध्यात्मिक पुरुष. So from adhyatm, the word adhyatmic has been made by applying the suffix thak. Yadidam adhyatmam chakshuradi karnam ityartha. So adhyatma here means the senses, like the eye, the ear, the nose. This is adhyatma. Because atma means here body. And adhyatma means which are situated in the body. And these are the senses. And their presiding deity is adhyatmika. Saiva adhidaivik chakshuradi adhisthata suryadi indriya tad adhisthatra ubhyoreva suryadi ansattvena ek rupattvadi. Now, according to Vedic philosophy, our senses have a presiding deity. Every sense. Like the deity for the eyes is sun. So therefore eyes cannot function without sun. Sun is the source of light. And without light, the eyes don't function. They will not be able to see. And eye is a manifestation of sun's energy. So it is the same, and ultimately sun is manifestation of God. So it is the same God who is manifest as sun, and then who is manifest as an eye, the instrument through which we see. So this division of eye, which is the sense, and the presiding deity of the eye, which is sun god, is ultimately the same thing. And similarly all other, the nose has its presiding deity, the ears have their presiding deity, the tongue, hands, legs, everything has their presiding deity, and without those they cannot function. So therefore it says Saiva adhidaivik chakshuradi adhisthata suryadi. That same who is adhyatma, who is the senses, he is also the presiding deity of the senses. Indriya tad adhisthatra ubhyoreva suryadi ansattvena ek rupatva. Because the senses and their presiding deities, they are nothing but part and the whole. Tatra tattvesu madhye ubhaya अध्यात्म आधिदैव रूपो विच्छेदो विभागो यस्मिन् स आदि भौतिक चक्षुर गोलक आदि उपलक्षितो दृश्यो देह. And the division between the sense and the presiding deity is made by the body, because body is that which is giving us the facility for the senses to function. Because this eye which we see physically, it is not the eye. This is only the sitting place for the eye. The sense of seeing is inside, and that functions through the eye. So therefore it is the body which is giving that facility and then making the distinction that this is the eye and that is the sun who is the presiding deity. When the body is not there, then this distinction is lost. So that's why he said that Yas tatra ubhaya vichcheda purusho hi adi bhautika. So therefore body is called adi bhautik purusha, and the senses are adhyatmic purusha, and the deities of the senses are the adhidaivik purusha. But these three purushas, ultimately they have their shelter in God, because these three also cannot function independently. So that he will explain in the next verse. यद्वा उभय गोलक रूप है शब्द स्पर्शादि रूपस्य विच्छेदो भेदो यस्य सा पुरुषस्य जीवस्य उपाधित्यात् upadhitvat sarvatra purusha pada prayoga. Or he gives another explanation. He says the sitting places of the senses, which are called golaka in Sanskrit, and the sense objects, because senses are sensing the objects. So this distinction is made by the body. Vichhedo bhedo yasya sa, and Purusha is the upadhi. Jivasya upadhitvat sarvatra purush pada prayoga. The word Purusha is used for all three because these three are the upadhis or the adjuncts with which the soul is identified. Seva esha purusho anna rasmaya ityadi srute. As in Tatriya Upanishad it is described that he is the anna rasmaya purusha. So the various types of kosha, the anna rasmaya, manomaya, pranamaya, vijnanamaya, anandamaya. So these are the identifications. Now in the next verse, he says, Ekam ekatara bhave yada nop labhamahe tritiyam tatra yo veda sa atma sva ashraya ashraya. Says that these three things, they are interdependent. Ekam ektara bhave no upala bhave. Our eyes cannot work without sunlight, which is sun god. And if the eye is not there, then sun god can also not be seen, and it has nothing to preside over. Because if sun god is the deity of the eye and it has to preside over the eye, then the sense has to be there. If the sense itself is not there, then there is nothing to preside. And if the body is not there, then the sense cannot function. So body, sense and the presiding deity, these three are interdependent. They function when all three are present. If you want to perceive an object with your eye, then there is body, there is eye, and then there is the sun god, which means light has to be there. Or if you don't take the body, then sense object, because he gave alternative explanation. There is sense object, and there is the proper light to see it. And the other two cannot function in the absence of any one of them. All three have to be present. But all these three are known by another fourth one. So he says, Tatra Tritiyam Tatra Yo Veda. One who knows all these three, that is Atma. Atma means the Supreme Person. Sva Ashraya Ashraya. That is the shelter of its own shelter. Or that Atma is the living being and he has shelter in the Lord who has his own shelter. So Lord is therefore the ultimate shelter. But somebody may say, well, the senses have the shelter in the presiding deity because they work with the help of that, therefore that is the shelter. So he says, yeah, they are shelter of each other, but the ultimate shelter is the Atma or the Supreme. And that's the Ashraya which we have to understand. Ekam ek tara abhave iti etesham anyonya sapeksha siddhitvena anatmatvam darshayati. Says that the sense object or body and the presiding deity, they are interdependent and function with the help of each other. And therefore they are not the Atma or the Supreme Self. Tathahi drishyam vina tat pratiti anumeyam karnam na siddhyati. If there is nothing to see, then it is not possible to prove that you have the sense to see. Because the proof that I have the sense to see is because I can see. And if I can see, then I must have the sense to see. But if there is nothing to see, even if you have the sense to see, how will you prove that you actually have? You cannot prove. So therefore, the proof of the sense itself depends on its object. That's why it says ekam ektara bhave yada nupalabhame. That one cannot be understood in the absence of another. दृश्यम विना तत्प्रतीति अन्वयम कर्णम न सिद्ध्यति नापि drashta. And if you cannot prove that you have the sense to see, then you cannot also prove that there is a seer. Because if the sense cannot see anything, then there is no one who sees. So that also cannot be proven. Nacha tadvina karana pravritti anuvaya tad adhisthata suryadi. And if the sense and the seer are not proven, then you also cannot prove that there is the presiding deity, Surya, etc. Nacha tam vina karnam pravartate. Now if you take the sun, suppose the sense object is there, the sense is there, and the sunlight is not there, it says then also the sense cannot function without the presiding deity. Nacha tadvina drishyam. And therefore there is nothing to be seen, even if the objects exist. But if there is no sun, then also you cannot see. So they cannot be proven if one of them is missing. Iti evam ek tarasya bhave yada ekam nopalabhame. If one is missing, then the other one we cannot ascertain. Tatra tada tata tritiyam yo veda sa tan nirpeksha siddhir atma jiva. But one who knows these three and not depending on these three, that is Atma, that is Jiva. Because our existence is not dependent on the soul, on our senses or body or anything. We exist eternally. The soul is eternal, it never dies and never takes birth. And it is not dependent on the body. Even if body is destroyed, the soul is not destroyed. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains this. So soul is independent. It can still have its existence and knowledge without body. Yaduktam deho asvaksha manuvo bhutamatra matmanam anyancha param vidur yat sarvam puman veda gunash tajgyo na veda sarvagyam anantamide. So this is a verse from Daksha's prayers. It says that body, life, air, senses, mind and elements, subtle elements and everything else, this is all known to the person. Sarvam Puman Veda Gunanscha, and it can also know the gunas of the Prakriti. Tajgyo na Veda Sarvagyam Anantamide. But soul cannot know the Lord by itself, and I pray to that Ananta. So in this verse, it is understood that Jiva can know that. Iti sarvam etat tritiyam pumana jiva veda tatra artha tathaiva. Jagrat swapna susuptam cha gunto buddhi vrittaya tasam vilakshano jiva sakshitvena vinishita. Then he quotes another verse to show that how it is the jiva who can know everything else. So he says we have three states of existence: the wakeful state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. These are the three states we experience. but we ourselves are distinct from this. So tasam vilakshano jivaha. Jiva is vilakshan or distinct from this. Why? Because Jiva is the witness of all these three states. We are awake, so who is witnessing this state of being awake? Then we sleep. When we sleep, we are not aware of our body. We are aware of our body only when we are in wakeful state. When we are sleeping and dreaming, we become aware only of our mind, not of body. So there is somebody who is witnessing the dream. Who is that? Mind is not witnessing because it's happening in the mind. And then we go into deep sleep where there are no dreams even. That means we are not aware of mind or physical body. But there is somebody who is witness to the deep sleep. Because when we wake up, we say that we slept very happily, nicely, did not know anything. So that means somebody was experiencing the deep sleep. So one who experiences the deep sleep and the dreams and the wakeful state is obviously different from all these three states, which means that being is different from physical body and mind also, because dream state and wakeful state are experienced in body and mind. So one who is experiencing that has to be different from the experienced. It is a principle that when you experience something, then you are different from that. If you are seeing an object, then you are different from that object. If you are having a thought, then you are not the thought. You are separate from it. So if we are separate from, if we are experiencing the wakeful state and dream state, then we must be different from wakeful state and dream state, and which means everything we experience in dream state and wakeful state, we are not that. And similarly, deep sleep also. So tasam vilakshano jiva sakshitvena vivasthita. That sakshi means witness. Means it is not part of it. It is separate. It is not participating in any of these things. So that shows that soul is different from the body, from the senses, and also from the presiding deities and the sense objects. That is the conclusion. And that's what the verse is saying. That ekam ek tara bhave yada noplabhame tritiyam tatra yo veda sa atma. One who knows all these three, that is atma, that is me, that is I. And obviously it is different from all this, because if I am knowing it, then I am different from it. I am different from what I know. So I am not all this. Sakidrishaha. And what is this soul? Swameva ashrayo yasya sa paramatma eva ashrayo yasya sa. So jiva or atma is called here as swa ashraya ashraya. Means jiva is that whose shelter is that person whose shelter is he himself. Swa ashraya is Lord. Lord is Swa Ashraya. Swa means self and Ashraya means shelter. Whose shelter is he himself. He is called Swa Ashraya. And Jiva is called Swa Ashraya Ashraya because that Swa Ashraya is the Ashraya of Jiva. One who has his own shelter or his own support for himself, he is the support of Jiva. Therefore Jiva is called Swa Ashraya Ashraya. So that means God is the ultimate shelter, because Jiva is also dependent on him. The body, the senses, the presiding deities, sense objects, they are dependent on Jiva, the living being, the soul. But soul is not self-supporting. Soul is dependent on that person who has his own shelter, who is independent. So that is the meaning of ashraya here. This 10th object or 10th topic which is being defined. Ayam artha, the meaning is this: adhyatmadinam paraspar ashrayanam jiva ashrayas jivasya paramatma ashraya paramatmana paramatma eva ashraya. So he says that this adhyatmic, adhibhautik, adhidevik, they had their mutual shelter. The senses, the body, the sense object, they are interdependent. So they have mutual shelter. But they are dependent on jiva, the living being. And the living being has its shelter in Paramatma, God or Super Soul. And Paramatma, God, has his shelter as himself. This has no matter. No matter. So God is therefore the real Ashraya Tattva. He is the ultimate shelter. Iti Ashraya Tattvam Paramatma eva. Tatha Vishtabhyam idam Krishnam ekanshena sthiti iti uktehe swam Krishnam eva ashrayasya sa Paramatma iti vyakhyan. Sri Krishnasya mukhya ashrayatvam. And because Krishna says that he is the person who has entered into this universe, so therefore this Paramatma is Krishna and he is the supreme shelter. And tada ansatvat paramatmanasya, and the super soul which is used is also one part of Krishna, which is supporting the universe. Nirvishaya swarupatvat brahmanasya iti ekam, and the formless feature which is called Brahman, that is also a manifestation of Krishna. So Krishna is Supreme God and he manifests in three ways: as he himself, and to take care of this material world he manifests as Paramatma, Super Soul, and he also manifests as formless Brahman. So those are the three things which were mentioned in the previous verse. Param Brahma, Paramatma iti Shamyate. Ashraya Tattvam Upasaka Bheda Tridha Bhaste. So he says this shelter therefore is of three types: as formless Brahman, as Super Soul Paramatma, and as Supreme God Bhagavan. Because there are three types of practitioners, spiritualists. There are those who follow the path of Jnana Yoga, and there are the path of Ashtanga Yoga and the path of Bhakti Yoga. These are the three main paths. And for these three main paths, there are three manifestations of God as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So this is the ultimate shelter which is being defined here in Bhagavatam. Now stop here.
Satyanarayana, alright, trying to understand this like bottom line. Bottom line is that the Lord gives us an opportunity to come to learn about Him, know. When I say us, I'm talking about the human beings, the living entities, the human beings particularly, gives us an opportunity to know, love, and want to serve Him. And then in so doing, then that would be considered like the perfection of life, I would think. But then in order to be able to reach that place, you would have to have His mercy, because it's not enough to say, well, I'm just going to learn about God and serve Him. And you also have to, so He's always in everything.
Yes. This is the
Can't
this is
do
the
it.
reality, and it may be frustrating also.
There is everywhere. There is no secret.
And he doesn't give you any chance. Keeps the control with him. And yet he says, you work and leave the result to me.
So all these experiences and stuff that human beings get involved in has a lot to do with it's just Maya working, it's his Maya. We're all caught up in the illusionary energy and, trying to love someone or hate someone or whatever you're trying to do with someone, to someone, or at someone. That's the illusion, and he knows that that's going to also go on because that's also that's his program.
Yeah, that's how he has set it up.
So you can't become liberated from that or freed up from that unless you have him there
You
to
cannot jump
give
out.
it. You can't jump out.
It's very controlling, really speaking. You can only pray to him, that's all.
Pray.
And then it's up to him whether he listens or not.
Did I understand well that you said that Atman is the witness of every action?
Yes.
Stage, yes. So Atman here, you mean the individual?
Yes, individual soul.
Individual soul. Because I tried to compare it again with the Buddhist, but it doesn't seem to work. Because there is no...
They don't have a witness.
They say it's our ignorance because there is nothing existing, everything arises and then it disappears, so...
No, there is no witness for them in Buddhism.
Only consciousness.
Yeah, and that consciousness is also dying every second. That is also not permanent. Then they have this alaya vigyan, kshanik vigyan and alaya vigyan, something which is in the heart.
But how can we prove that it is not like that? How can we prove that it is not like that?
And this proof itself that we have experience of the deep sleep. So who is experiencing if everything is changing?
But they say it is consciousness, it's because we remember.
But consciousness is changing, and one who is experiencing has changed, and memory, when you remember something, you can only remember that which you have experienced. Experience and remembrance have to have the same substratum. It is not that you experience and I remember. So if their consciousness is changing every moment, so at moment A, the consciousness experienced something, and then you remember it at moment B, but that consciousness is gone, and the new one has come, so how it can remember now? Unless there is something stable.
There is a factor which not change.
Yeah, but they don't have any factor. For them everything is changing. Sarvam kshanikam kshanikam. Everything is momentary in Buddhism.
Yeah, for example, they say that if I say something, a bad word to you, so this may disturb your mind, but then according to them, this is your ignorance because you remember it. But really speaking, my word arises and then it's disappearing. So, in some sense, it's a fact.
Yeah, but the question is that why do I remember it if I have changed?
Because you didn't like that word, so...
No, but one who heard is already dead. Because every second I'm a new person.
Yes, exactly.
So when the one who heard it is dead.
Yes.
So why the new one is suffering or not
Because,
like
yeah,
that?
because of ignorance, because
Ignorance, what ignorance?
the fact that you remember something which
How
I
you
spoke
can remember?
about.
You didn't experience it.
No, you remember it.
How do I remember? Because I'm dead. Every second I'm dying, so the I who experienced is gone.
Maybe you die little by little. I mean,
There's nothing like that.
something like this, the bugs go from the leaf to another.
Everything, their consciousness is changing every second.
Every second, the complete consciousness.
Every second is a new person.
There is a sequence.
If this
It
way,
doesn't
then
carry anything
you
from
couldn't
the
study anything or do anything. You wouldn't.
Yeah,
It
then they
surprises me that they say this. Because
they say
they
that,
study a lot, and then if they're saying, it's, it wouldn't be worth it.
yeah, so they answer that although it dies but it leaves a samskara and then remembrance comes from that. But there is a big debate on it, because how can it leave samskara? To leave samskara it must exist. But it doesn't exist. And to come to memory also, because whatever comes to memory, that is also dying every second. So all the time you have to support it. It's a very complicated answer that you must give. So it's like there is I, and this I is always dying, but there is a new I which is coming. And because this new I is exactly like the previous one, so we think it is the same. It's like when there is a candle burning. So candle is burning and the wax is burning, so this flame is not same. It's changing every second. Because every second it's a new flame. But because it is similar to the previous one, we think it is the same flame. So like that I, which we feel I am my own, because somebody can say, but I feel I am and I don't feel I am changing. So they said it is like this, what you see in the flame. And it looks like it is the same flame, but actually it's changing every moment. This is their explanation.
This makes sense,
But then they have problem with the deep sleep.
but so can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So how is exactly that is happening that these presiding deities are related with the senses? Because it seems that they are
Just like if you want to see something, you need light or not.
yeah.
So this is related. Without light, you cannot see.
Because
So
when
who
we-
is
when we
the
talk
master of
Yeah,
your eye? The
exactly.
light.
the light. So presiding deity of the eyes is the light. Because presiding deities, I always thought something like personal.
Yeah, it's also a person. Sun God is also there, but he has his energy.
So he exercises his energy to make all these things function.
Energy is not there without energetic. Just
Yeah.
remember this principle.
Okay.
This is the very important principle of Vedic philosophy, that there is no energy without energetic. And in science there is energy and there is no energetic.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be a source, spiritually speaking.
Person.
A person.
There is always a person behind energy. There is no energy without a personality behind it. Whether it is water or fire or air or anything, there is a person. So therefore there is an air god and water god and fire god and electricity god, everything. Because without person there is no energy. Energy is not without somebody behind it.
How many gods existing?
As many energies.
Must be very intricate. Well, there is just one principle which function for everybody the same. Yeah, each function for everybody the same. So everybody needs light in order to see it.
So if you have weak eyes, then you can improve your eyesight with the help of sunlight. And if you're always working in artificial light, then your eyes are bound to become weak.
I can attest to that.
Hmm?
I can attest to that.
Yes. Because sun is the presiding deity for the eye.
So that this is not a belief, it is a real
So
fact.
it's a fact.
Just to clarify these Adhyatmic, Adhibhotic and Adidaivic, so the Adhibhotic is the, you can say the organ in which the sense faculty is residing,
Yeah.
and the Adhyatmic is the sense faculty itself.
Yes.
So like in terms of vision, like Adhibhotic would be the eye,
Yeah.
and Adhyatmic is the faculty of sight.
Right. Kanadhidavik is the deity.
Yeah.
Okay.